All right, guys, welcome in. John and I are here tonight to do our first ever Group of Five and Independence College Football Preview Show. All right, guys, welcome back. It's Brad with College SportsCast. We're here to do our first ever Group of Five College Football Preview Show. We're going to talk about them and the Independents tonight. This is mainly because we are now at a college football playoff now, 12 teams, and they are at least guaranteed one spot. Right, John?
Yeah.
I mean, before they played, more than likely they wasn't going to get in. There's been one or two get in. Cincinnati got in as a group of five, but very few have gotten in as a group of five. Now, college football's changed. The fifth conference championship will be a group of five, and they will get in. Now, they don't get in the fifth spot. It's only the top four, but more than likely there'll be a 12, but they at least get in the college football playoff this time. So we are going to talk about the group of five, and then we're going to throw in some independents here at the end and talk about them. Real quick, if you are following us on Facebook, you can help support us now by sending stars or subscribe to our channel for 99 cents a month. Either one of those will help us earn money to continue to make content for you guys. So we would appreciate that if you would do that. And Jonathan Johnson, appreciate you being with us. Appreciate you being with us, man. So, all right, at the bottom, this is College Sportscast. Go to homefieldapparel.com, use our code CSCast or True Victory. Use our code DeFanboys for 15% discount. This is my True Victory shirt here. They are veteran owned, and we would appreciate if you would use our code DeFanboys.com. All right. So, John, when you look at these group of fives, we are going to start out with the AAC, the American Athletic Conference. That's what we're going to start out with. And the first team that we're going to talk about is the Memphis Tigers.
Yep.
This is a little different for you and I. Memphis has had some pretty good teams as of late. And, I'm talking 2022, 2023. They've had some pretty good teams as of late. And this Memphis team seems to set up pretty well for a chance at the college football playoff. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, Memphis to me is probably one of the three teams, maybe four, that probably could grab that group of five automatic bid. They won 10 games a year ago.
Right.
They was competitive in the three losses that they had. And they bring back most of their roster, including their star quarterback, Seth Hennigan. So they got a really good, solid passing attack. They do play a difficult schedule. They play on the road against Tulane, UTSA, South Florida, and they do go on the road and play at Florida State. So it'll be interesting to see, in which we saw what happened to Florida State against Georgia Tech this past weekend. You never count out college football. So
you absolutely can't. Looking at their offense just real quick. I mean, you mentioned their quarterback being back, Seth Hennigan being back, and that's going to be big for them. But they also average over 4.6 yards per carry on offense as well, running the ball.
Well, they've always been known for up and down. Norvell, when he was there before he left for Florida State, they played a really high profile offense, and they kind of kept that same repetitive offense when he left. So It should be interesting to see how this Memphis team does going
On
forward.
the defensive side of the ball, where do you think this, in the conference, and then, teams like Florida State that they're playing, and, are they good enough to compete here and possibly be 10-2, 11-1, and be the top ranked college football playoff team for the group of five, conference winner?
I mean, I think they can. I mean, their schedule's tough. They're going to be always good offensively. Now, their defense sometimes has little peaks and valleys where they don't play good at times. But they won 10 games a year ago. I think, those 3 road games I mentioned to me are going to tell the tale. And be the key to the year, because you're going to have the road games against UTSA. You're going to have the road game against South Florida, which they'll be much improved. Tulane will be good. And now it might even be competitive with Florida State now that we saw Florida State. Like we don't know what to expect from Florida
let's take a quick look at their schedule, John. I mean, they start out with North Alabama on August 31st here on Saturday. Then they play Troy at home, at Florida State, at Navy, Middle Tennessee State at home, open date, at USF, North Texas at home, at Charlotte, UTSA at home, Rice at home, UAB at home, open date, and at Tulane. That's what their schedule looks like. Where do you see in that as a key game for them?
I think it's got to be UTSA, because UTSA is going to be really, really good. They're always
the state game's going to be key, but it is. I think they would be able to afford to lose that game and run the table in the conference. If they could, I think they would have a really good chance.
Now, if there's really one game that I feel like that they could afford to lose, it would be Florida State. But I don't think you're going to be able to get into the college football playoff, I don't think, without at least getting to the conference championship game and beating UTSA or either Tulane, because you're going to have to win those games.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. All right, my over and under on this for their season, John, I have them at 9.5.
That's basically where I had them at. I just think they're one of the few teams that I think could possibly make a run at this.
I think they absolutely have to get to 10 to even have a smell of a shot to get into the college football playoff. Because if you drop one in conference and still are in the championship game and lose to Florida, I think you would still have a shot to win your conference in the championship game.
Well,
and possibly get in.
To reiterate what I was going to say last week, 2 losses this year is probably going to get you in the college football playoff. Now, a year ago, 3 it wouldn't been as much.
I don't think that's necessarily the case, though. Here in the
I'm saying in the Power 4, you're probably going to get 2 losses and be in.
But in the group of 5 here, if there's one team that hits that 11-1 mark and the rest of them are 10-2, they're probably going to be the highest ranked team.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, we're going to move on to UTSA. They've had a pretty good run over the last 6 years or so. UTSA has, former quarterback Frank Harris was there for a long time. And they've had a pretty good run. Do you think they can challenge Memphis here in the Conference USA?
I think they can. Their biggest strength is their offensive skill players. Now, they do have to replace their quarterback, Frank Harris. And I felt like Owen McCown, he didn't really impress me much his freshman year. They lost some key pieces defensively as well. UTSA did, so they're going to have to find answers in the secondary because I think they ranked 109th in coverage. So I still think that they're going to be a team to watch in this conference, but I don't think they're the team that is going to be one of those that makes the college football playoff.
All right, so on defense, they have some pretty skilled linebackers that can move. They're just not real big. You know,
No,
they're not massive like power four conference linebackers.
Yeah, they added some guys.
But they are very good.
They added some guys from the portal. They got Denver Harris from LSU. They got Jamarius Lewis from New Mexico. So they got some help in the secondary. I think them losing two of their top guys from a year ago is going to really hurt them. Cam Alexander, he went to Oregon.
I think the quarterback here replacing Frank Harris, Owen McCowan, he's a sophomore. I think he's going to be a key player for them.
Yes.
Replacing Frank Harris here. So that's who I have as a key player for them. All right, let's take a quick look at their schedule and then pick a key game here. Their schedule looks like this, guys. They start out with Kennesaw State, then at Texas State, which won't be an easy game. They're a good one in the Sun Belt. At Texas, Houston Christian at home, at East Carolina, open date at Rice, Florida Atlantic at home, at Tulsa, Memphis at home. That'll be a big game for them. Open date, North Texas at home, Temple at home, and at Army is how they wrap up the season. Where do you see in that as a key game for them?
Probably
I see two. At Texas State is not going to be easy for them.
No, Texas State is
probably a big game, and Memphis home.
Texas State is probably going to be one of the top teams in the Sun Belt, and I think Memphis game is probably going to be the big one for UTSA.
I mean, they play Texas, but we all know they're probably not going to beat Texas at Texas, the third game of the year. So, that's just probably not a game they're going to win. I think it's probably the Texas State or the Memphis game at home.
Yeah, it's either of those two. In my record, I got them at 8.5.
I had their over under at 8.5. That's what I have. So I think they're right there with Memphis, especially if they can beat them at home. They can win that game at home, then they have the upper hand here and possibly, could at least be in the championship game and have a chance. I think, the likely loss, looking at their schedule, is probably Texas. Every other game, they could be in and win.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Pretty much. All right. The other team that I wanted to talk about here, and this is a little different here, is I want to talk about South Florida out of the AAC here. What do you think about South Florida's chance? I've seen some people predicting them to be one of the top teams here in the AAC. They haven't been, but they've been improving. They scored 414 points last year with a really fun offense.
They did. And even the Alabama game a year ago, they hung enough in to make some noise, but they just couldn't finish the deal.
Byron Brown is their quarterback to build around. He's a pretty good quarterback for them.
Yeah, he's a fun guy to watch.
Yeah, and they put up a lot of points and score and move the ball, on offense. Pretty fun offense to watch. Just a team that I think that we should talk about here a little bit. What about the defense side of the ball for Florida State, for South Florida?
It's hit and miss. I think it allowed 31 points or more 5 times. The offense was able to take care of things, though, when they was able to keep certain teams in check. So there's plenty of experience returning for them, especially in the portal. I think this is a surprise team that could make some really good noise. They added Deshaun Rucker from Tennessee. They got Brent Austin from James Madison. And then they got the Youngstown State transfer, DeMarco Augustine. So they're going to be fun to watch, especially offensively. And then they added to the defense through the portal.
All right, let's take a quick look at their schedule. They start out with Bethune-Cookman at Alabama, which won't be an easy game for them at all. Then they go to Southern Miss, Miami at home. So that's a pretty tough non-conference slate there for them. At Tulane, open date, Memphis at home, UAB at home, open date at Florida Atlantic, Navy at home, at Charlotte, Tulsa at home, and they finish at Rice is the look on their schedule. When you look at that, what do you see as a key game for them?
I think it's the Memphis game because you start out with Bethune-Cookman. You play at Alabama.
You're not picking Alabama here? Wait a second. You're not picking Alabama here?
You're probably going to lose to Alabama. And the Southern Miss game, Southern Miss is not going to be as good as everybody, that the
but
coach.
It's still at Southern Miss. I mean,
then they play Miami, and then they go at Tulane, and then they have an open day. I just think that Memphis game is huge because if you can knock off a team that is in the hunt for the college football playoff, I think that, to me, that's a really big deal.
I mean, Miami, even at home, is going to be a tough one for them. I see the Alabama and the Miami games as probably definite losses here. So I'm not sure if winning and the college football playoff here is in the cards for them, but could they make a run and get into the championship game out of the AAC here? Yes, I think that is in the cards for them here. I mean, could they be one or two losses, in conference and make the championship game? I think it's possible.
I do. I just think they're going to have to beat a few of those teams, like you said, Southern Miss and such, if they're going to have a shot.
Yeah. So I look at I did their over and under at 7.5. That's what the over under for the wins on the season is 7.5. I mean, could they get to 8 or 9? If they get to 9, then I think they would have a chance maybe they would have to upset Memphis or a couple of those conference teams that we just talked about, to be able to get to that. Tulane on the road, which won't be an easy one. So there's a couple of tough games there for them. All right, John, real quick, we're going to wrap up the AAC here. Is there any other AAC team that you want to mention or talk about? I have one, and that's Tulane. They have John Summerall now as the coach, who's been the head coach at Troy the last couple of years, 23-4, won the Sun Belt twice, went to playoff games. He's a heck of a coach, ex-Kentucky guy here, but I'm going to tell you what, he's a heck of a coach. And just watch out for the Green Wave. I feel like they're going to make a little bit of noise even in his first year.
Yeah, if anything, that would be a team to pretty much keep an eye on there. But other than them, I think Memphis is your best bet.
All right, we are going to move on then to the Conference USA. And Conference USA, the top team to me and the one that a lot of people are picking with a chance to go to the college football playoff here is Liberty. They are the team who made the New Year's Six last year. Now, they didn't show out very good because they lost their coach and quarterback so anyway, but No, wait a minute. That was the year before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's right. It was the year before when they lost their coach. Anyways, but they didn't show out very good last year. They played Oregon and got clobbered, but they didn't make it, and that would be the 12th spot. They were the highest ranked group of 5 team last year, and that would be the college football playoff 12th spot here.
Oh,
So
no doubt about it. Like
yeah,
Jamie Caldwell, his first year as Liberty's head coach couldn't have gone better. They finished the year 13-1.
right.
They won the Conference USA Championship. Like you said, they made the New Year's Six Bowl.
That is the 12 right there.
In only their 6th season as an FBS program. Now that's impressive to me.
Yeah.
And they got their sights set on repeating. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. They got Quentin Cooley back. They got Caden Salter back.
Salter, their quarterback being back, really is going to help them a lot.
I'm telling you now, this Liberty team can play ball. I tell people all the time, there was a couple schools that scheduled them in the last 2 or 3 years, Arkansas, and they gave Power 4 teams fits.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, this is my team to win this conference. Now there might be
their receiving core took a hit with a transfer to LSU, and a couple of things there. So, I don't know, but this team has been able to do it year after year. So I'm sure they're going to have somebody step up for them.
Well, they did add a nice piece in the portal, Julian Gray from NC State, which will help their receiving core. So he was a big plus for them.
Right. All right. On the defensive side of the ball, the linebackers will probably be okay there for them. I think the secondary needs a little bit of work.
They do. And pass protection, to me, that's my key of the year. Their pass protection was really bad offensively. I think they finished 94th among FBS schools in pass blocking grade last year. And they lost 3 starters off the offensive line, which is going to be you got to replace those guys. So, but still, I think Liberty will be in the hunt when it boils down to it, because Jamie Caldwell is an absolutely heck of a football coach. If you knew him when he was at his time at Coastal.
Right. All right, let's take a look here at the schedule. They start off playing Campbell at home. Then they go to at New Mexico State, which will not be an easy game. New Mexico State had a good year last year, probably be a pretty decent team this year. Then they play UTEP at home, East Carolina at home, at Appalachian State, open date, FIU at home, another open date, at Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State at home, at Middle Tennessee, at UMass, Western Kentucky at home, and then at Sam Houston is where they finish up the season. Yeah. Key game, looking at that, where do you see as a key game?
I think you got to go Appalachian State, because, App State is up there right in that
playing at App State is going to be
tough. Yeah. I mean, that's probably to me, that's probably going to be your toughest hurdle.
Western Kentucky at home towards the end of the season will probably be a tough game. I think they won 42-29 last year. The
thing is, you got them at home. You got to steal a few of these road games, and this is the one that they need to steal if they want to slide into that spot. Like,
this is a team, guys, that could absolutely make the college football playoffs.
And I'll say this real quick. If you've never watched Caden Salter play quarterback, he's talented, my man.
Oh yeah. And I have their win set at 10.5, John. That's when I look at their schedule, I have it set at 10.5.
That's where I got them. I think it's another one that I've got kind of not penciled in, but I got them kind floating around that.
They're right on the edge. I think they are one of the top 2 or 3 teams that could absolutely make the college football.
And there's another one. I don't know if we're doing the same. I think this is USA, but there's one in the Sun Belt that
we're doing Conference USA.
Yeah. So there's another team that I'm kind of keeping my eye on.
Yeah. All right. We are going to move on to WKU, Western Kentucky University, out of the Conference USA conference here. I think they are going to be a challenger here for Liberty. Now, nobody really has had more of a high-octane offense than Western Kentucky. I mean, they've had 2 quarterbacks that just broke record after record after record after record over the last couple of 2 or 3 years. And, of course, their top target, Malachi Corley, is in the NFL. That's going to hurt. Malachi was a second-round pick, I think, out of Western, and that's going to hurt. So what do you think here about Western Kentucky in Conference USA?
Western Kentucky can score, man. Like, they got a fun offense. You know, they move the ball around. They do a lot of jet sweeps. They do a lot of I wouldn't say they do a lot of air raid principles, but they do a lot of up and down, no huddle stuff.
They pass. I mean, they hit nearly 45 or 50 passes a game.
Yeah, they play at a high octane pace, and I'm going to say this while we're on this, and I know there's a lot of Alabama fans out there watching tonight, and I'm going to say this: I'm not saying Alabama's going to lose. I'm not saying that.
But I'm telling you,
they'll give them a better game than people think. They really will.
I'm not saying they're going. I'm just saying they better be ready on the defensive side of the ball to last all game long without getting at least 3 or 4 scores on you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing too, Alabama's got a lot of depth, and I think eventually what they're going to do, they're going to wear them down towards the end. But Western Kentucky is no slouch. Like, you know, they've given some teams fits. You know, they beat Kentucky couple
and
years
they're not
ago,
afraid
4 years ago.
They play a tough schedule in the non-conference every single year.
Every year.
They are not afraid to play these teams like Alabama. They really aren't.
Not at all.
And Helton has done a fantastic job.
Helton's a great coach.
He's done a fantastic job.
He's very underrated.
I'm a little partial. It's only about 20 minutes down the road from me. So that's where they play. 22 minutes, something like that down the road from me. So I'm a little partial here on WKU. But they've had a great run. I mean, all the way back. I mean, they had Bobby Petrino for a year or two. They had Braum that's now at Louisville. Like Western's been and Helton here. I mean, they've been really good for quite a while. Defense. You know, their defense is not nearly as good as what their offense is. They kind of do that high octane, try to outscore everybody type deal is really what they do. They did pick up quite a few players here out of the portal, at least in the secondary. They did on the defensive side of the ball. You know, they picked up guys from the likes of Ole Miss, Texas A&M. I mean, that's
going to help them in conference, I think. Now, against really great, I wouldn't say great teams, but good teams, they're not going to have enough, to me, they're not going to have enough depth to overcome a lot of that. But in the Conference USA, they're going to beat some teams that, you know, that they can outscore and outnumber.
I agree. All right, let's take a quick look at their schedule. Before I do that, before I take a real quick look at their schedule, I want to mention a guy here, and we haven't mentioned him. If anybody remembers the name TJ Finley,
played at Auburn,
was a starting quarterback at Auburn for a year, maybe a year and a half. He has transferred in to Western.
And he was actually named the starter.
Yes. TJ Finley is going to be their starting quarterback here for Helton. I think that's going to speak some volumes here for them as well. So I just want to throw that in there. All right, they start the season at Alabama on Sunday.
Right out of the gate. Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. I'm telling you, they're not scared to play nobody. I promise you. They start out at Alabama, then they come back home and play Eastern Kentucky at Middle Tennessee, which is a rival of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Toledo at home, which won't be an easy game.
That's another team that's kind of going to be under the radar.
Yes, that will not be an easy game. Then they go to Boston College. That's their first 5 games. All right. Open date, UTEP at home, at Sam Houston, Kennesaw State at home, open date at New Mexico State, La Tech at home, and then at Liberty, which will be a big game in the Conference USA here. And then they finish Jacksonville State at home. Mm-hmm. So when you look at that schedule, I mean, John, they're not afraid to play guys. And there's some games on there that you look at and you think, okay, that's probably a loss.
If I was really going to look at this schedule and I thought, this is the game they need to win, I think it would be Middle Tennessee, because in between there you got Alabama, you got Toledo, you got Boston College. Like, you need to win that game and kind of get your season on the right foot, because we all know they're not going to Alabama and they're not going to pull the upset.
They're not winning at Alabama.
They're not winning.
They may not be able to beat Toledo at home. And going to Boston College, I mean, it's probably a loss. They're ACC. You know what I mean?
And Boston College is going to be much improved.
Yeah. So do I think Western is going to make the college football playoff here? Not really, because they play too hard of a schedule, and they won't be ranked up in there. But
it's going to be tough.
Could they be a factor in the Conference USA Championship game?
Definitely.
I think they can. Absolutely. I have them set at 7.5 wins. That's what I have them set at.
That's where I got them. Maybe 8 if they could kind of steal a game, here or there. Boston College maybe on the road, because listen. I know Boston College is not Alabama and some of these others, but that, to me, them going on the road and playing that shows me that, like you said, they're not scared to go on the road and play these Power 4 schools. And to be honest, that might be a winnable game.
Yeah, it could be. If they could get that win, it'd be huge. If they could win Toledo at home and at Boston College, this team, I'm telling you, could be 10-2. I'm not saying they will be.
At most.
They could be. They could be 10-2 if they can get those 2 wins. One of them's a home game and one's at Boston College.
Yep.
All right. We are going to go on to the next one here in Conference USA. Real quick, we are going to move to Jacksonville State. They are a team that I think most people thought was going to fall off after last year. Because, Dion and everybody, I think everybody thought they were going to fall off.
You mean Jackson State, or Jacksonville State? You said Jackson.
No, I'm talking about Jacksonville State. That's who I'm talking about.
You said Dion, and I was just wondering. That's Jackson State.
Yes, you're right. It's Jacksonville State too. But I think most people thought they were going to fall off last year, and they didn't. I think most people thought Sam Houston was going to step up in the Conference USA here, and it was really Jacksonville State. And they have a guy that I think a lot of people might know in Rich Rodriguez.
They do. And I tell you, the style of their attack, the way they play offensively, is really good. Is really fun to watch. You know,
They
now
were
they got
9-4 last year.
they got 3 starters are expected back. Their size, they got some size. They got some depth. Clay Webb at the guard position is really good. You know, so this could be a fun team to pay attention to early in the year.
Yep. I mean, I agree. Offense, defense. What do you think here? You know, looking at their team.
Well, and I'll
and
say
what they're
this,
doing.
and a lot of people don't know this because a lot of people don't watch Conference USA football except for all the diehard sicko fans out here. But their their defense was one of the best in the country last year. Their pass rush.
I mean, absolutely.
Can I say that again? Jacksonville State's pass rush was one of the best in the country.
Yep. And they got the Zion Turner, the QB from UConn, transferred in there. A lot of talent.
Yep.
And, you know, we'll see what he can do here. Transferring in here to Jacksonville State. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I do think the secondary has a little bit of work to do.
They do.
On the defensive side of the ball.
I'm going to say this. The key game, like, I know he was going to get to this, but to me,
the schedule real quick. And then
key game for me is Coastal Carolina.
That's the very first game of the year. I'll let you finish in just a second. So Coastal Carolina at Louisville, at Eastern Michigan, Southern Miss at home, open date at Kennesaw State, New Mexico State at home, open date, Middle Tennessee at home, at Liberty, at La Tech, FIU at home, Sam Houston at home, and then they finish at Western Kentucky.
Reason I say that Coastal is a huge game was because last year they started out the FBS season, their first year losing to UTEP.
Yeah.
And I think beating a team like Coastal, which beat them last year 30-16, I think that would be huge to start out the year. And I think it would kind of glance some momentum towards them. And if you beat Coastal, you'll have a chance in every single game in Conference USA.
Well, I mean, look, if you lose that game and then you go to Louisville the second game of the year and play at Louisville and lose that, you're sitting at 0-2 to
You're
start
sitting
the
at
season.
0-2 to start the year, and then it's kind of a fog the rest of the year trying to get back to where you want to be. So,
yeah, so, I mean, that Coastal Carolina game at home is a big game for them. Absolutely.
it's huge.
Yeah, it is a big game for them for sure. Now, over and under on their win total here, I have it set at 6.5.
I'm going to go 7.
I think they could do a little better than that.
I think I'm going to go 7 because, you know, last year there was times where they didn't play really well. The defense or the offense struggled at times, but they still ended up with 9 wins. And I think, you know, that this will be another type of year with that because, listen, Rich Rodriguez has done a really good job with this group. And I think he's going to get them to respectability and do a really good job with them this year.
All right. Any other Conference USA team? For me, the only other one that I really wanted to mention is Middle Tennessee. They have a new coach. You guys might recognize him. He coached at Vandy. Go, John. Tell us who it is.
Derek Mason.
I think Derek Mason's a good coach. I think, and he knows Tennessee. He knows Middle Tennessee.
And I'm going to say this about Derek Mason.
Murfreesboro is only about 20, 25 minutes from Nashville, where he's been. So he knows the recruiting there. I think he's going to do a good job.
I'm going to say this about Derek Mason real quick. I've been wanting to say this for some time, and I'm just going to say it while we're on this topic.
Yeah.
I know people kind of bashed him at Vanderbilt and you know, the seasons that he had. Now, let's be honest. He did beat Tennessee. He beat a few teams while he was there. But listen, y'all, he stepped into a horrible situation. Like a very I wouldn't say horrible. I wouldn't say horrible.
He got him to a bowl game twice. They haven't been to a bowl game
I'm
since.
talking about when Franklin left. It kind of left him in a spot to where he had to really hurry up and get his players in there. And I just think it was a load on top of him. And I think with him sitting at Middle Tennessee, I think he's in a great spot to where
he knows the area, he knows the recruiting around there.
And I feel like there's no really big pressure there to win for him that it would be at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, he's in a good spot.
He is.
There at Middle Tennessee. I almost said state. It used to be MTSU. I still think it is MTSU, to be honest with you. But anyways, Middle Tennessee is Derek Mason. I think he's going to do a great job there. I think he will be in the mix here, if not this year, in a year or two here in the Conference USA.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the MAC here on our Group 5 preview. The first team that we are going to talk about is a team who lost their quarterback midway through the season last year and still finished 11-3 and won a MAC championship, and that's the Miami Redhawks.
Yeah, unbelievable year they had a year ago.
I mean, and they have, just so you guys know, when Blaine Gabbert takes the start here for the first time here in a couple of days, or this week on Saturday, he will be the first quarterback to ever open the season with six starts. He's going to have 6 opening season starts in college football, and he's going to be the first one ever to do that.
Do you want to know something, a key stat that people don't know about this team? Is this was their best record in 2 decades. And that's dating back to Ben Roethlisberger when he was there. And I pretty much know everybody know who Ben Roethlisberger is. I mean, great quarterback, played at Pittsburgh his whole career. My biggest concern with this team is keeping Gabbert healthy.
He's the brother of Gabbert. What was his first name? The brother's name that got drafted first round.
I can't think of it right off. Blaine Gabbert.
And this guy, I'm saying his brother's names. This guy's name is Brett. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. Blaine was the brother that was drafted. Blaine Gabbert is the quarterback here for the Redhawks. Totally messed that one up.
I think defensive wise, they bring back a lot of key guys. To me, I felt like their defense was top 15. And I know it was because it was top 15 of allowed plays per play. They returned 8 of their 13 guys who played at least 300 snaps a year ago. So and to be frank, their defense was elite last year. Their defense was really, really good, and they bring a lot of those guys back. And I think that's going to propel them. I just think, like I said, keeping Gabbert healthy and keeping him upright and is a crucial point for the season to get them to where they want to be. And they go on the road to Notre Dame this year, which should be a fun thing too.
Yeah, I mean, if they could go 11-1 or 10-2, this is a team that is not out of the question to be in the mix for that college football playoff spot. I'm not saying they're going to grab it. I'm not quite there yet with this team.
I'm going to tell you something. Y'all can say what you want to, but Chuck Martin's a really good coach.
He is.
He's a great coach.
He is a really good coach. All right, let's take a look at their schedule. They start out at Northwestern.
Listen, y'all. Y'all. I'm going to tell you. Have you seen the point spread for that game? I think last I looked.
What is it?
Last I looked, it was 3.5 Northwestern.
Yeah, and that's at Northwestern, guys. Then they have an open date. Then they play Cincinnati at home.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go at Notre Dame. You talking about a team that's not afraid to play some power conference teams. Then they play UMass at home, at Toledo,
Another tough game.
At Eastern Michigan, Ohio at home, Central Michigan at home, open date at Ball State, Kent State at home, Northern Illinois is at home, and they finish at Bowling Green in the MAC.
My key game.
But I'm going to tell you, you look at that schedule, John, the first 5 games or 6 games or so
Are brutal.
That's a tough schedule, man.
Yes. I think the Toledo game is the key game. I think it's going to be between them and Toledo. And I think you're going to have to get off on the right foot, which I know you're probably not going to beat Cincinnati. Possibly could at home. And you're not going to beat Notre Dame. So you're going to have a
Could they upset Northwestern at home?
Possibly.
Could they beat Cincinnati? I mean, possibly. Northwestern on the road and Cincinnati at home. I mean,
now let's be fair.
If they could steal one of those two and beat Toledo at home, I mean, on the road.
Let's be fair.
They'd be in the driver's seat.
We're going to have at least 1 or 2 losses probably going into that Toledo game.
I mean, more than likely, yes.
At most.
Notre Dame for sure is going to be a loss.
Yeah, they're not going to beat Notre Dame, I don't believe. So
no, I don't think so. But I'm just telling you guys, if this team can find a way with that tough schedule to get to 10 wins, I mean, I have them set at 8. The over-under, if you look at their schedule, and that's part of the reason why I have them set at 8. But I think they could get to 9 or 10 wins.
I do. I think so too.
Yeah. All right. We are going to continue with the MAC with Toledo. That is the other team here that I wanted to talk about here with on the MAC. So Toledo has been really, really good the last few years, won a lot of ball games. John, do you think they have a chance to win this conference this year? The thing about Toledo is they lost quite a bit.
They did
to the transfer portal.
They
still retain some, but Penny Boone, Finn, the quarterback Finn is gone to the transfer portal, so they lost quite a bit here.
They did. I think that's where this comes into play. It's tough to replace Finn at quarterback. There's some question marks there. Now I think
Penny Boone had 100 yards.
And Penny Boone's gone. So they lost 2 of their star guys. I think their defense is going to be really good. They brought some guys back. They went through the portal. I don't know. I think Toledo could be the Mineville, Ohio of a year ago. Just, everybody didn't think they was going to do much. Come in, they get to the MAC championship, and they do some good things. I'm still picking, I think, Miami of Ohio to win the MAC again because I just think they have more pieces there. I think you got to have good quarterback play, and you got to have at least some running game, which they do. They got some guys that are in there and some guys that return behind Penny Boone. But losing Finn to Baylor was a really key loss.
The only saving grace that they have is they have a Georgia Tech transfer that is coming in to be their starting quarterback after losing Finn. Tucker Gleason.
Gleason, yeah.
He's a junior. I mean, he was at Georgia Tech, so they do have a Georgia Tech transfer at quarterback, even though they lost Finn. So that's one good thing there for them. Let's take a look at their schedule.
I'm going to say the Mineville, Ohio game too, so you can just bypass me because I think that for both sides, that's just going to be the biggest game of the year.
I think it is too, absolutely. They start out with Duquesne at home, UMass at home, Then they go and play at Mississippi State. That's going to be a big game for them.
And I'll say this to add to that with Mississippi State, a new looked offense, a new looked whole group coming in.
Mississippi State's replacing a lot, lost a lot. I mean,
they're replacing a lot of pieces.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Then they go and play at Western Kentucky. Won't be an easy game. Open date. Then they play the Miami game, Miami University, the Red Hawks.
Yep.
At Buffalo, at Northern Illinois, Bowling Green at home, at Eastern Michigan, open date, Central Michigan at home, Ohio at home, and then they finish the year at Akron.
Speaking of Bowling Green, I got a dynasty with them on College Football 25. I had to kind of slide that in.
When you look at their schedule, they have 3 games starting September the 14th that I think are going to be the absolute key games for their entire season. They play at Mississippi State, at Western, and home against the Miami Redhawks.
I think there's a great chance they could beat Duquesne at Duquesne first game.
I think they could.
It's a winnable game
as well. I have them set at 7.5 on the win total. I think they can get to 8.
I got them at 8.
Yeah, I think they can get to 8 wins. And I think looking at these schedules with Miami and with Toledo, I think 8 or 9 wins might be the leaders here out of this conference.
Yeah,
I think agree. Miami has a shot at 10-2, but man, they're going to have to win at Northwestern or beat Cincinnati at home or something, or win at Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
To do that kind of stuff. So I mean, there's some tough games there.
Yeah, they are.
I'm not positive that the college football playoff comes out back this year.
No.
That's I just don't feel like that's going to be the case this time. All right, we are going to move on from the MAC. I really don't feel like there's other teams to talk about there. There are teams in that conference that are going to be 6 or 7 win teams that will make some bowl games. I am not going to act like they're not. There will be. I just don't think they're going to be a player in the national scene. So we're going to move on.
I want to say this. We're going to Boise State. What a roller coaster ride it was a year ago. They had that 5-5 start. They fired their head coach. They fired, and then the defensive coordinator Spencer Danielson stepped in as the interim coach. They rallied under this guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Winning their final 3 games, and they won their first Mountain West Conference championship in 4 years. Tell me if that's not impressive.
Now,
and then it adds.
And I'm going to tell you, John, this may be as good a team as Chris Peterson used to have.
Yeah, they legit have a shot at the college football playoff.
I'm going to be honest with you before you get into it now. I made a prediction for my 12 teams. I picked Boise State as my college football playoff team preseason.
And guess what? They're the current favorite to be one of the 12.
Yeah. This is my pick preseason. We're going to the Mountain West here, Boise State. And they are loaded on offense. Now, I will say this. They had a surprise QB1 here about a week ago. I thought it would be Malachi Nelson, the transfer from USC.
I thought it would be too, but it was not.
But he wasn't named the starter. I do think that they will probably use some of his skills somehow. I still think they will, Malachi Nelson here. But, John, they have one of the best backs, maybe the best back in the country.
Ashton Jeanty. He's the real deal, man.
Their backfield's amazing, honestly.
And they play that up tempo.
This is where Bush Hamden came from, and they had like one of the top 4 or 5 offenses.
Well, what they've done, they played a lot of, I think, Bush Hamden.
I'm sorry, they were 6th in the nation in rushing offense.
Bush Hamden likes to run the ball. He likes to do a lot of RPO stuff. He likes to get it out to the receiver.
Guys, listen how balanced their attack was. They had 3,098 passing yards and 3,008 yards on the ground.
Listen, if Kentucky even comes close to that, we might be pretty good, man.
Their backfield is amazing, and I'm not even playing.
Now they did add Cam Camper from Indiana. He was a wide receiver, and they added a really good cornerback in Jeremiah Irby from California. So they added some guys in the portal. I'm just going to tell you straight up, this team is my pick out of the group of 5, and they're the current favorite to make the college football playoff. And I'm going to go as far as say this. Look at that schedule. Who do they play right out of the gate?
It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one.
Who do they play, Brad? Let everybody know who they play.
They play Oregon.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one. Absolutely.
It's at Oregon.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. I know Oregon is supposed to be one of the top teams in the Big Ten.
And they will be. And this is not – I am not going to pick Boise State to beat them at Oregon. But I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to know that they were in a dogfight
all night
in this game. I promise you. Even their defense, John, their defense is really good.
It's good. Yep.
I mean, they have great linebackers that make plays. They have hard-hitting safeties that make lots of tackles. I mean, their defense is pretty good as well. This is a solid, and I mean solid team.
Very solid. Yep.
A very, very, very solid team. All right, let's look at their schedule. And I did mention Malachi Nelson. All right, let's look at their schedule. First game of the year, they play at Georgia State. Second game of the year, they go to Oregon. Then open date, they play Portland State at home. Then they play Washington State at home. Won't be an easy game. Utah State at home, at Hawaii. Open date at UNLV. San Diego State at home. Nevada at home. San Jose State away at Wyoming, and they end the season with Oregon State at home.
Yep.
So just for the record here, they play Oregon, Washington State, and Oregon State.
Yep.
I'm just saying that's for Boise State here. That's a tough schedule.
It is.
I mean,
I think 2 wins could get them into the college football playoff. Or, 2 losses.
Oh, yeah. I think. I mean, if they could somehow go 11-1, they are a shoo-in. There is no way that anybody else – I don't think anybody else in the country is going to get in if they're 11-1.
You go on the road and you upset Oregon, you're in high cotton.
I'm not even saying, but if they could somehow find a way to beat Washington State and Oregon State at home and then run the table minus the Oregon game and just lose the Oregon game at home, they are a shoo-in. There's no way they are going to be,
because they're going to look at Oregon State and Washington State as a top Power 4 team. Because even though they're in the Mountain, the Mountain West Pac-2, they're still going to look at them as a.
John, I've got their over and under. You look at their schedule. I've got it set at 9 because they play those 3 games.
I got it at 10.
And at 10, they are going to be absolutely in the discussion and maybe make it. At 11, I think they're in.
Yep.
At 11, if they can get to 11, they are I don't think anybody's going to touch them at 11. All right. We're going to move on in the Mountain West. We're going to talk about UNLV. We're going to talk about a couple of teams here that I think that could be in the Mountain West Championship. I think UNLV is one of them. They have a good coach out there in his second year, Barry Odom, and I think he done a fantastic job last year. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a chance here to talk about Barry Odom and UNLV. The Running Rebs.
Barry Odom is a wonderful coach. He guided Missouri to a lot of success. He went out to Arkansas after he left Missouri. Did some good things to Arkansas, and then things didn't work out, and he moved on to UNLV, where he had a really great first year. A lot of good things.
I think were they 9-4 or something like that?
Something of that nature. And I think they're going to have another year where they're going to be really good as well again this year.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Odom is a defensive guy. We'll get into the defense here, but offensively, what do you think we're looking at here for them? On the offensive side of the ball here.
I think they're going to do what they did a year ago. They
a lot of running the ball behind a decent offensive line. You think?
Yes, I think just grind games out. The thing about Barry Odom, he's very. I wouldn't say he's old school, but he's very precise in how he does things.
Well, he's a defensive guy by trade. That's what he was.
He is. And they actually finished 9-5 a year ago. Their first winning season in bowl games since 13.
They went what last year?
9-5.
9-5. I was close. Yeah.
And I'll say this, Brennan Marion, the offensive coordinator, he's go
yeah.
offense. Last year was just amazing to watch offensively. And they never really slowed down.
Woodman is back. He's the linebacker. There's a leading tackler last year on this defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a huge key for them. And then they picked up some guys out of the secondary out of the transfer portal that I think is going to be big for them as well. They got Jalen Catalan from Texas, a transfer from Texas, and Tony Grimes, a transfer from Texas A&M in the secondary. I mean, that's when you can get them at UNLV, some Texas guys. That should help your defense.
And that name should ring a bell with folks. Jalen Catalan, he played at Arkansas at one point.
Yeah, and was at Texas. That's what I'm saying. So now he's at UNLV, and then Tony Grimes with Texas A&M. Some pretty big name schools here to transfer in here. Barry Odom at UNLV. So I think that's going to help them on the defensive side of the ball, of course, when you can do that. Matthew Sluka is a transfer in from Holy Cross as their QB. He put up 6,000 yards and 59 touchdowns over the last 4 years at Holy Cross. We'll see what he can do for Barry Odom at UNLV.
My key to the season, the game is Fresno State, and I say that because you're going on the road to Houston, which Houston's not a big favorite. They're, I think, 3.5.
Houston's not a great team, but it is on the road. Mm-hmm. That's where they start out at Houston.
And then they play Utah Tech at home, at Kansas, open date, Fresno State at home, Syracuse home, at Utah State, at Oregon State, home against Boise, open date, Hawaii, San Diego State at home, at San Jose State, and home against Nevada. That Fresno State game for me is really big because you play at Kansas and you play Houston, and you don't need to lose any more beyond that because then you got Syracuse coming to town.
I think the Fresno is the other team here that I was going to talk about out of the Mountain West. I said two teams. So that game is big because I think the winner of that game will have the leg up to get into the championship game in here and have a chance to win the Mountain West championship.
I think they're another team that could make a run as Fresno State.
Yeah, that's the other team. I mean, UNLV, I say 6.5 or 7 wins here would be where you look at their schedule. I think they could get to that. What do you think, John?
I think 8 at the maybe 9. It depends on pulling upset here or there.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Odom's a good coach, and I wouldn't put 8 or 9 wins past him. I mean,
no, I would not.
Sure. And I think they are going to be a player to make the Mountain West championship. Top 2 teams here. So my other team is Fresno. That's the one we were just talking about, Fresno State. They were 3rd in the nation on third downs last year on offense. So that's pretty good to be 3rd in the nation on third down efficiency on offense.
Well, and they enter a new year with Jeff Tedford. No, wait a minute. Jeff Tedford stepped down. Tim Skipper is the new coach.
Yeah.
They got Mikey Keene at quarterback, Malik Sherrod to carry the offense. Defense lost a lot of key pieces to this team.
They scored 27 points 9 times last year and won all 9 of them, 27 or more. They were 9-0.
Their biggest strength to me is their passing game. They bring a lot of key pieces back to the offensive room. Their defenses, they lost a lot of key guys. Their defense is going to be their tail, whether they have a great year or not, and if they can get to the Mountain West Championship.
I agree with you. I mean, defensive wasn't anything special.
No, I mean, it wasn't special, but you can't lose your top 4 guy. It's hard to replace your top 4 guys that are on your team and just replacing them. It's pivotal that you get some guys to plug in there and get it.
Malachi Langley is a top linebacker, had 84 stops, 84 tackles last year. He's a name to watch on the defensive side of the ball there. And then they have a few playmakers in the secondary as well.
They did lose Raymond Scott to James Madison, which to me was a big loss at linebacker. So
yeah,
felt like that was a big loss for them.
Mikey Keene is going to be their quarterback. How Mikey Keene goes is usually how Fresno State
is going to go.
Yeah, that's my key. That was my key to the season. Is how Mikey Keene goes is how Fresno State goes most of the time. All right, let's take a look at their schedule. They start out huge game here at the Big House.
Yep, right out of the gate with Michigan.
That is this Saturday. They play at Michigan. So we will find out a little bit more about Fresno State right out of the gate here. Then they come back home and play Sacramento State and New Mexico State at home. Then they go at New Mexico, to UNLV, open date, Washington State at home, at Nevada, San Jose State at home, Hawaii at home, at Air Force, open date, Colorado State at home, and then they finish the year at UCLA, which is kind of a weird game to finish the season off.
Odd game, yeah.
To be the last game. I mean, if you played them, it looks like it'd be earlier in the season, not the last game of the year.
No.
But
I think they was kind of replacing the USC game. Well, I think they play UCLA. Don't they play UCLA this year?
But it's really odd. Wait a second. Boise State and Fresno State do not play in the regular season.
That's very odd.
It's kind of odd out of the Mountain West here that they do not play in the regular season. Key game, looking at that schedule. What do you got?
Probably UNLV.
At UNLV?
I think that's a crucial game for them because if you look at their schedule, it's pretty manageable beyond Michigan.
Well, I mean, they play Washington State at home, former Power Five, former Pac-12, and then they play at UCLA and Michigan. So, I mean, that's 3 games that you look at their schedule and you're like, wow, that's pretty powerhouse teams right there.
Yep.
For a Mountain West, team to be playing. So, when you look at those 3 games, I have them set at 8 wins. Is what I have them set at.
Yeah, that's where I have them. And the other 2 teams there's only one other team really in this group is Oregon State. I don't think Washington State's going to do much this year. I don't think.
Well, I'm not really considering them Mountain West teams because they're not going to be part of the conference standings. They're playing some conference games.
Yep.
6 each one of them, I think. But they're not going to be part of the conference standings. So I have them listed as our independents that we were going to talk about here. But other Mountain West teams, I mean, to be honest with you, the only one that I was really going to mention, there was 2. I was going to mention Air Force and Colorado State. I don't think that they're going to be a player in the championship or nothing, but I believe that they're going to be in that next tier, those 2 teams, Air Force and Colorado State. I think they're going to be in the next tier. But beyond that, we are going to move on to the Sun Belt.
Sun Belt, and then where we're going to the independents.
We are.
Yeah.
All right. The Sun Belt is next. We're going to move on to that, and we are going to do App State first is who we're going to hit. First is App State. App State has had tremendous football over the years. I mean, lots of years, and won a lot of big games. They are a team out of the Sun Belt, John, that absolutely could be a player if they can get to that 11-1 mark or 10-2 mark. They absolutely could be a player out of the Sun Belt for the college football playoff. Yeah,
Sean Clark has done a really good job. They're the betting favorites right now to win the conference. A lot of that's because of who they got returning offensively. The defense needs to be a little bit better. I think if they want to get to Sun Belt, Joey Aguilar is coming into his 2nd year as quarterback for App State. He's one of the top group of 5 signal callers. They also bring back their top 4 wide receivers and tight end group from a year ago. Can they defend the run better is the question. Can they get better defensively? Their offense is always going to be there. But can their defense get there is my question, and that will tell the tale whether or not they get to the get to the Sun Belt Championship.
So one thing I want to mention here as we are talking about the Sun Belt that I was going to mention right off the top, but I forgot to mention it. The Sun Belt is the only conference left in football that still has divisions.
Yep, that's true.
Everybody else has left and not went to, left divisions and just doing a straight up. The Sun Belt still has an East and West.
Yep.
And App State is one of the teams on the East that I think will be a player to get into the championship. And like I said, I think they could be a player in the college football playoff if they can get to, that 10-2, 11-1 type of year for them. But I did want to mention that because it is a little different. I tend to like the divisions. I'm going to miss divisions out of the SEC, just to be honest with you. But what do you think? Do you like the divisions here, still in here, or no?
I do. I think it's, but I see where it's going with it. Gives everybody an opportunity to possibly get into the championship game, and you don't have that the one and the one, and then you have to decide if you just beat your teams that you're supposed to beat, you're going to make it anyways. And I think I think it's a fun thing. I'm still old school when it comes to divisions. I like the divisions.
I like the divisions. I'll be honest with you.
It's just changed.
I
College
think it
football has
actually
changed.
opens the door for more teams
Yep.
to get into the championship game for the
Mhm.
conference, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at their schedule. They start out at home, East Tennessee State. Then second game of the year, App State goes to Clemson,
Yeah.
which will be a big one. Then they play at East Carolina, South Alabama at home, Liberty at home, Marshall at Louisiana, open date, Georgia State at home, Old Dominion at home. Then they play at Coastal Carolina, open date, James Madison, and at Georgia Southern is a look at their schedule. Where do you see as a key game there for them?
Probably Liberty.
It's
I,
kind of
I'm.
a tough schedule if you look at it, really, to be
It's
honest.
it's a little tough. Liberty probably. You're going to be duking it out. I
Liberty's at
know.
home.
Well, I know they're in the Conference USA, but they're going to be
Yeah,
duking it out with them, trying to get to the college football playoff.
yeah,
And that's a
absolutely.
key game that they need to win.
Yeah, I agree with that. That is
And
a
they're
key
over and
game that they
under.
need to win.
I feel like their over and under is probably 9.
I have it at 8.5, but I mean,
Mhm.
they could get to that 9 wins. And if they can figure out a way to get to 10 with that schedule, playing Liberty, playing at Coastal, playing Clemson, playing James Madison, I mean, you know, these are some of the top teams that we're talking about here tonight.
Yep.
If they could get to 10 wins, I think they would have a shot. But I think it's going to be maybe that 8 or 9 range.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I still think they're going to be a player here in the Sun Belt. All right, so there is a few teams here because this is divisions, but Coastal Carolina. Coastal's been really good the last few years. They lose their quarterback. He transfers to McCall, transferred to NC State, so they do lose their quarterback here. So that's going to be a big one for them.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think they can be a player here in the East in the Sun Belt?
I think it's a possibility. Since he let Grayson McCall is really
they're 31-6 over the last 3 years.
He's a really special quarterback. And they're not going to name their starter, I don't think, until Thursday. I had read that.
Chadwell left to Liberty, so that's a tough one too. So
they got Ethan Vasco. He filled in last year for McCall and Guest. And now they got the Michigan State transfer, Noah Kim. The quarterback play is going to be the tail, I think, with Coastal, because Grayson McCall is a really, really special quarterback, in which we even talked about NC State a couple of weeks ago. That's going to be a special team with him at the helm.
Oh yeah. I
think their quarterback play goes down a little bit this year.
I think they do fall back here a little bit, but I still think they could possibly be a player in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I do. I just don't think they're in that mix for the college football playoff. That's just me.
No, I don't really think that either, but I do think that they're in the mix for the Sun Belt here. Their defense, they play that 3-3-5 style, which is a little old school style.
Very old.
Huh?
I said very old.
Yeah. And Mike Leach played that.
Yep.
Had that.
Sure
that Zach Arnett played?
Yep.
Yeah. That 3-3-5 on defensive side of the ball. All right. Let's take a quick look at their schedule for Coastal Carolina here. Sorry, I'm doing a little scrolling to get to it. All right. They play at Jacksonville State. Then William and Mary at home, at Temple. Virginia at home will be a big game for them. Open date. Old Dominion at home, at James Madison. Louisiana at home, open date. At Troy will be a big game. App State at home. At Marshall, Georgia Southern at home, and they finish at Georgia State, is what their schedule looks like. What do you think will be a key game for them? I think Virginia at home.
I think it's the first game. Jacksonville State. That's a huge game because it kind of sets you for the whole year. Like, puts you in that idea where you're getting right out of the gate and start fast. And if you get to 0-1, and you don't really know what Virginia is going to be like, Virginia is going to be
Virginia's going to be down, I think. So I mean that's a game they could absolutely win at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said Virginia at home.
It's possible. I just think Jacksonville State is a big game because it's right out of the gate. Like, it's a monumental game for both of them.
And they play James Madison, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. They also play Troy at Troy. App State at home. I mean, they got a pretty tough schedule sitting here looking at their schedule.
I got 8.
I've got them set at 7. So you think they can get to 8?
Yeah, I think
if they can get to 8 wins with that schedule, I think they'll have a shot at being in the Sun Belt, for the Sun Belt.
I do.
Yeah. All right. So the next one that I was going to talk about out of the East is James Madison. That was the next team. Yeah. James Madison had a really good year last year coming in as a D1 FCS school. Do you think they can repeat that?
That's a good question.
You think they could be a player here, or is App State a little bit ahead of them, and you think they're – I just wanted to start with that.
That's a really good question.
When their head coach is now –
reason I'm kind of
– players is now at Indiana. The transferred to Indiana as well.
The reason why I'm kind of quiet on this one is because, they lost Kirk Cignetti. He went to Indiana, and he took a lot of really good players with him.
He did. They lost one of this now at Indiana. That's what it said.
And they lost McLeod to Texas State, that's who we'll talk about next.
It is.
And they haven't had a losing season since 2002. So a winning culture is still there. It's going to be tough, man. I just don't.
I'm just not sure that they're going to be a player out of the.
No, I don't. I mean, it's going to be. I'm not saying it's going to be a rough year, but you lose your coach and lose a lot of players. Like, it's tough to rebound in that next year.
We will move on to the west side for the Sun Belt, and that is Texas State.
But I don't think they'll go. I think they'll at least get 7 or 8 wins, and that'll be a decent year for James Madison.
I agree with losing all the players and coaches.
It's tough, man.
I agree with you. All right, Texas State. Now, I mentioned earlier that TJ Finley was at Western Kentucky. That's actually where TJ Finley played last year. Was it Texas State?
McLeod.
Yep.
Listen, to me, the Bobcats are the favorites out of all the group of 5, in my opinion. They got a dynamic quarterback in Jordan McLeod. He, like I said, he came in from James Madison. The non-conference schedule has really big opportunities here. They play UTSA, Arizona State, and they avoid Appalachian State. So the pieces could be set up for a Sun Belt championship and a chance to play for the college football playoff. Ishmael Mahdi, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's the running back. They got a really good defensive end in Ben Bell. Caleb Culp is a defensive player to watch. Texas State, the Bobcats, they coming. They coming. Hold on, I'm coming. You know that song, Hold On, I'm Coming?
They're going to be really good. I agree with you. On the offense,
they're going to be really good.
I did bring up TJ Finley. He threw for over 3,400 yards and 24 touchdowns last year for them, but he's off to Western. You think with their quarterback coming in from James Madison, they're not going to miss a beat, huh?
I don't. I think McLeod is very dynamic. I think he can do things with his feet. He's very good athletically. This is a fun team to watch. And I think that they'll win. I think eventually what they'll do, they'll win the Sun Belt.
Okay. Well, let's look at their schedule. Do you have it up?
I thought I did. Hold on.
Hang on. I'll get it. I'm just scrolling.
Yeah, I got it. Here it is. They play Lamar.
Yeah.
I think it's right. Lamar Saturday. Then they play Arizona State at home.
No, they play UTSA next.
Wait a minute. They play UTSA. Then they play Arizona State at home, which is a rare game against the Power Four.
At home, for sure.
At home.
Yeah.
At Sam Houston, Troy at home. At Troy, Texas State play Arkansas at home. Old Dominion at Old Dominion. Louisiana Lafayette at home. Louisiana Monroe at home or on the road. Southern Miss at home. Georgia State at home. And then they go to South Alabama in the year.
So the Arkansas is Arkansas State, not Arkansas.
Arkansas State.
Yeah. Okay. Once they get past, I think Troy is going to be a big game for them at Troy. But once they get past that game, you look at their schedule, I think it's wins.
Yep. Down the road.
Yeah. And if they could somehow beat Arizona State at home, you might be right. This might be a college football playoff team. If they could pull
you're talking about Texas State. Texas State, y'all. Yeah. Getting into the college football playoff. Like, it's that realistic.
Yeah.
They're over and under. I got 10. I got 10 wins. I think they win 10 with their schedule. I think they pull an upset here or two places,
I was going to say 9 is what I was going to say.
Which they do avoid App State, which is a big plus.
That is a big plus to avoid them.
Now, they might have to there could be a shot to play them in the Sun Belt Championship, which
if they're the East and West winners, then they would match up because they're still divisions.
They could determine a lot of things too. So.
Yeah. Well, so the other team that I wanted to talk about on the West side was Troy. Now they lost John Summerall as a coach, but they are the Sun Belt winners the last 2 years. They were 23-4 under John Summerall. Do you think they take a step back here, or are they still going to be a player out of the West?
I think they got to rebuild a little bit. They got Gerard Parker. He has to rebuild a lot of things. This program is used to winning. Ever since I was a kid,
for a long time. Neil Brown had it.
Even when I was in high school, they was good. 5-10 win seasons since 2016, consecutive Sun Belt titles. Troy to me has always been a consistent football program, and they've always had good athletics, good, just great players go in and out of there. A guy by the name of DeMarcus Ware.
Yeah.
Play for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Team you despise. He played for Troy. at one point. So
Gerard Parker is the new coach there. He was an interim coach at Purdue for a while there.
Yeah.
So he's their new coach now.
Yep.
They did lose some here, but I
but
still think they're going to be a player in the West.
They are. I just don't think they're going to be a player for the college football. There's too many pieces that they need to rebuild with.
I mean, I still think they're going to make a bowl, be around 7 wins.
Yeah.
Something like that. All right, so that is going to sum up the group of 5. We're going to get to our independents. There are only 5 independents. You got Notre Dame, and I'm throwing in Oregon State and Washington State here. I know they're technically still part of the Pac-12, Pac-2. I don't know what y'all are calling it these days.
Yeah.
And they are playing games out of the Mountain West, but technically they are considered independents this year. So the other 2, you got Notre Dame, Oregon State, Washington State. The other 2 independents are UConn and UMass.
UMass, yeah.
I will not be talking about UConn and UMass tonight, but I am going to go with Notre Dame, specifically going to start with them because I believe Notre Dame is a college football playoff contender this year. I think they have that kind of talent. They got the transfer quarterback from Duke, Riley Leonard, that is going to be I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I really liked him at Duke. And oddly enough, he's going against his old coach in the first game of the year, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But Notre Dame has a shot here, don't you think, John?
I do. I mean, they got Jeremiah Love at running back. Like you said, they got Riley Leonard. If you ain't ever heard of Mitchell Evans, the tight end, dude can play. And he's a really good tight end. Might be one of the best tight ends in the country, bar none. So Notre Dame is going to be a player in this. Now, their schedule is a little – I wouldn't say it's rough, but to play a team like –
But the schedule's always rough because they go around and play the top – I mean, a lot of top teams in the country.
I'll say this. And I heard somebody say – I heard somebody say this earlier. What if they lose to A&M? Well, if they do lose to A&M, I don't think it's going to hurt as much because I think there's some winnable games after that they can take care of. There's only 2 games on this schedule that really concern me as a Notre Dame fan. And I know that Florida State lost to Georgia Tech. But at the same time, that Florida State game and A&M game is crucial, I think, for them to make some noise. I mean, you can't lose both of them, I don't think.
So let's talk about their offense real quick because they brought in Hartman last year.
Yep.
And I don't think that he was near the quarterback at Notre Dame that he was at Wake Forest. Are we going to see something similar to that with Riley Leonard out of the ACC bringing in? This is the second time. Or do you think that they're going to figure something out here and Riley Leonard's going to have a really stellar year?
I think he's going to have a stellar year. I thought he had a stellar year at Duke last year.
He did, but Hartman had 2 or 3 really good years at Wake Forest.
And he just kind of slipped.
And then last year he was kind of so-so.
Yeah, he wasn't that great of a quarterback a year ago. So I think Riley Leonard would be a good quarterback for Notre Dame. I thought he was good for Duke.
They have some good receivers too, and tight ends.
Up until he got hurt last year.
Yeah.
So they got Mitchell. Mitchell's a really good receiver. And like I said, they got Jeremiah Love at running back. They got the Mitchell Evans at tight end. Their defense is really, really good. Benjamin Morrison might be one of the best players in the country. We're not talking just overall. We're talking like NFL. Like he's the real deal when it comes to putting pressure on that defense. Notre Dame's a player to me in the college football playoff. I think, but like I said, those two games, the A&M game and the Notre and the.
I have them setting as the first team. My preseason rankings for the college football playoff, I had them at setting as the first team out. I debated with them and a couple of teams, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like this Notre Dame team could actually make the college football playoff. And if they do, even if they went undefeated, the highest they be, because they are not in a power conference, is 5th seed.
I'm going to say this.
That's the highest.
And I know I'm probably going to get whipped by some Notre Dame fans, but I think they lose Saturday.
Well, we're going to do a game day pick 'em.
I'm just saying. I know that A&M. Everybody's saying, well, A&M's going to go, back to the gym.
I've got some opinions on that, but I'm going to hold my opinions till Friday night for our game day pick 'em.
Let me just say this. My Elko's a heck of a football coach. That's all I'll say.
He is, but I think he's inheriting a little bit more of a mess than some of these people are giving credit for.
But he added some good players in the portal too, so he's added some pieces. So,
all right. So look at Notre Dame's schedule. They start out Texas A&M. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the Florida State game is the key game, I think.
All right. And then they play Northern Illinois at home. Is that Purdue game on the road?
Yep, it's at Purdue.
Yeah. And then Miami of Ohio at home.
Yep, it's at home.
And then they play Louisville at home, Stanford at home. They play away at Georgia Tech.
No, it's actually a neutral site game, I believe.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think. Last I looked.
Okay, it might be. And then they play Navy. I think that one's on the road.
Yep.
And they play Florida State at home.
Yep.
Virginia at home. Army is on the road. And then they go to
USC.
Los Angeles to play USC.
And the fighting Rileys.
Yep. Yep. To end the season. That's a look at their schedule.
Jerry said one person on College Game Day Saturday picked Notre Dame to win it all.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's got I'm not going to go that far, Jerry, but I really think they have a shot at making the play.
I do.
I really do.
I think they got a really good shot.
One of the 12 teams. Yeah, I think they do. Now, they have to get in on merit. They can't win a conference. They're not getting in like the group of 5 that we've been doing.
Mm-mm.
They have to get in. They can't win a conference to get in. They have to be 10-2 at best.
I think what they have to do, they have to basically win their games and hope somebody gets beat. Right.
I think they're going to have to be at least 10-2 to get in. I don't think 9-3 will find them in the playoff. I really don't.
No, I don't either. No.
So let's put their win total at 9.5.
I got them at 10. I think, and I'm going to say this. I know that you're going to have your opinion on Friday night with the A&M thing. I think they lose this game, but I think they beat Florida State. I don't believe in Florida State right now. If I don't see anything better than what I seen Saturday against Georgia Tech, sorry, FSU fans.
They lost to Louisville last year, which is the game that killed me. That not just for that reason, my picks and everything else, like I really just didn't see that one coming.
Sorry, Tomahawk. I just until FSU starts. I know it was the first game. I know people say, well, it was the first game, everything. But to look like that, the first game of the year, when you're supposed to have one of the top loaded rosters in college football and the best team probably since you've been there, and to lose like that hits some red flags for me. And I just,
I agree. So Notre Dame, I think, has a real good shot to get in the college football playoff. 10 wins will do it. I think they can get to that. And I feel
I think the FSU game is the key game though. I think Notre Dame has to
the key
win
game
that
you
one.
think is FSU?
I think they need to win that game because I think that's one of the games they need to win to at least have a shot at getting to the playoffs.
Georgia Tech, Florida State, USC.
USC could be big too.
Yeah,
at the end. So
at the end, Texas A&M at the
because
beginning.
USC is going to be playing. Because USC is going to be better than advertised too, from some of the stuff I've read.
Yeah.
Miller Moss.
Yeah. All right.
Know his name Sunday evening. Miller Moss. Know his name.
The next one that we are going to get to is Oregon State. And yes, I am listing them as independents because technically, as far as the college football playoffs, that's what they are, is independents this year. They are playing, of course, Mountain West games, 6 of them, I think, 6 or 7 that they're getting for them and Washington State. But
I'm college
football playoff, they're considered independents. Now, here's the one thing I want to mention before we talk about anything else. They lost a ton from last year's team, who was a very good – the last 2 years, they have been great teams. Their coach is at Michigan State, Smith. They have 11 former starters who are starting on other power conference teams, transfers that are starters on other power conference teams. 11 that transferred out of – that's just the starters on the power conference. That's not everybody else that transferred. I'm just giving you an idea. They lost a ton, Oregon State did. And
I'll say this, and I'll let you kind of drag it out and detail it, but I think this is going to be a rebuild year for Oregon State. Losing Jonathan Smith, the coach, they lost their quarterback. They lost a lot of key pieces on that offense. And I just think, to me, Oregon State's going to have to rebuild that brand and gain it back to where it was. And I think it's going to take at least a couple of years to fix.
I mean, I don't think they're going to fall flat on their face here. I mean, they are playing Mountain West teams. They're not in the power. If this happened and they were still playing all the Pac-12 teams, then maybe. But they're
just going to have to rebuild for a year or two and get guys back to respectability for their program.
I mean, just looking at their schedule, I'm not going to dig into a lot because, like I said, they lost an absolute ton. But they start out with Idaho State. They go to San Diego State. Then the third game of the year is their big game. Normally this is at the end, but they're doing it early. The third game, Oregon goes to Oregon State.
That'd be a key game.
That's the third game of the year. Then they get Purdue at home. Then they play Colorado State at home. They go to Nevada, UNLV at home. They go to California. Then they play San Jose State at home, Air Force away. Washington State is another big game for them that they get at home. And then they end the season at Boise State.
Yeah,
that's a rough game to end the season on.
It's a toughie. Yep.
Yeah. So that's a look at their schedule. Where do you think would be a key game out of that for them? I mean, of course, the Oregon game, the third game, it's at home.
Probably.
But I don't see that as a win, to be honest with you.
Probably the UNLV game, maybe.
Yeah, the UNLV game at home or the Purdue game at home. They absolutely
the Purdue game.
Purdue at home.
I feel like you got to, if you're going to at least go to a bowl and maybe even get 6 wins, you got to win one of those 2.
Yeah. You've got to absolutely win those. California on the road is going to be a big one for them too. I think this team, to be honest with you, I've got it set at 6.5.
That's where I got it. I mean, maybe even 5. I mean, it's going to be a.
I don't think I think they're going to make a bowl.
I
I think
do.
I think
I
they're
just
going to make
think
a bowl.
I just think it's going to be a challenge for them a little bit.
All right, the other team that is a part of this that for the first time is Washington State. They lose Cam Ward. They didn't lose quite as much overall. Now Cam Ward's a big piece,
Here,
losing to Miami, but they didn't lose quite as much as Oregon State did. But let's be honest. I think the last 2 years, Cam Ward's kind of carried this team.
he has.
I mean, Cam Ward's
They listen. I'm going to say this: they endured a really rough year last year. You know, they had their losing season, their first losing season since the COVID year. Many went through the portal. They lost Cam Ward, like you said. Whoever their next quarterback is, I don't know. I haven't really checked on the quarterback. He'll have a pretty decent receiving core to throw to. And they're going to play an easier schedule than they're used to in the Pac-12, so possibly they got a shot to make some noise. Kyle Williams is a really good piece they brought back. They brought back Cooper Mathers, one of their top tight ends. Carlos Hernandez will be back. They got the transfer from Oregon, Chris Hudson. So they're going to have some decent pieces at offense and at wide receiver to at least make some noise and do some things. The biggest weakness is who's going to deliver on the ball, though.
losing Cam Ward is huge.
Now you got John Mateer. He's a redshirt sophomore. Zevi Ekos, I think. He played at the FCS level. Quarterback play is going to be crucial because losing Cam Ward is like losing LeBron James from the Lakers, like in kind of a regard, because you lose your leader and somebody that's been there and won games for you. And I just think that's where they're going to have to really be better at is quarterback play, because I think that's where they're going to struggle at a little bit since Cam Ward went to Miami.
Yeah, but let's look at their schedule. Like he's talking about, their schedule may not be quite as tough as it normally is. I mean, they start out with Portland State at home. They do get Texas Tech at home, the second game of the year, which will be a big game for them. And then the third game of the year, like Oregon coming to Oregon State, Washington State goes to Washington the third game of the year for the rivalry game. And then they get San Jose State at home. Boise State away is their fifth game. They go to Fresno State as well. Hawaii at home, San Diego State away, Utah State at home, New Mexico away, Oregon State away, and then they finish at Wyoming at home.
Jerry, Oregon State and Washington State, according to what I was told a while back, it's been about a year ago, they're going to play in the Mountain West this year, and then there's hope from people that they can revamp the Pac-12.
They're actually not in a conference this year. Not really. Not according
he was talking about after this year. There was hope that they could get the Pac-12 back together.
Invite teams, not Oregon and Washington's not coming back.
No, they're not coming back. That's not what I'm saying.
I mean,
I'm talking about invite more teams to be involved.
I'll discuss this in just a minute when we finish this. I'll talk a little bit about that. But when you look at their schedule, John, man, you think it's going to be easier, and then they play Oregon State, they play Washington, they play Boise State on the road, they play Texas Tech at home, which is going to be a huge game for them. I that's the key game. What do you think? Second game of the year at home?
I think it's Texas Tech.
Getting Texas Tech?
I think it is. I just think it's probably early. I think it's pretty big game, I think.
I mean, I think that's huge. They got to go to Fresno State, to Boise State, to Oregon State. I mean, that home game, Texas Tech, they got to go to Washington. So I think that home game with Texas Tech is going to be an absolute key. Now, looking at that, can they 6.5 wins? Can they do better, or are they going to be one of those teams that doesn't make a bowl game?
I think it's 7. I think they at least get 7.
Yeah, I think they can get close to that. I said 6.5. I think they can do 6 or 7 wins and get to a bowl game. And I'm going to be honest with you, John. After what Oregon State and Washington State has been through, I think that would be a huge bonus. If they can be at 7 wins apiece and get to a bowl game, I think that would be something major to build off of. Now, Jerry, you were asking about what they're going to do. So here's what I want to say to you. And I'm saying this also to Teresa Gold, who is the Pac-12 commissioner right now. And there had been talk that they wanted to try to get something back together with the Pac-12. If they're going to do it, I don't know what the hell y'all are waiting on. I don't understand it. If you're going to get this back together, you got to invite some teams.
You do.
I don't know what the hell you're waiting on. I mean, look, Memphis, I know they're not out west, but if you want to get something that resembles some players, teams with players that's going to maybe continue a Power 5 conference, you got to make some moves. If you don't, Memphis is going to wind up being in the Big 12. You know why? Because the Big 12 is going to make some moves. Mm-hmm. While you guys sit and twiddle your damn thumbs, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but if you're going to do it, you've got to make some moves. That's how the Pac-12 got in this damn predicament to start with. Because guess what? The Big 12, they didn't sit around with their thumb up their ass. And they sat around and actually made some moves and said, hey, we're going to invite this team and we're going to that team. And they survived. The Pac-12 sat around like a damn ostrich with their head in the sand, buried in the damn sand, and they fell apart. Now, what we got going is they're still sitting there. They got rid of the guy that done it. They brought in Teresa Gold, and they made a few moves early on. They won a court battle. They got some TV rights for this year. They made a couple of moves early on, Teresa Gold did, that I thought, okay, that's positive. Maybe they're moving in the right direction. But, I mean, we're months later, and they're still just sitting there, just twiddling away at their thumbs, just sitting here, just da-di-da-di-da-di-da. I'm not sure what the hell is going to go on, but what I will say this, if you don't make some moves, Oregon State and Washington State is going to wind up in the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
In the Pac-12, Pac-12 will be no more.
To answer your question, they're either going to have to get off of their ass and make some invites and moves to save the Pac-12, or they're going to wind up in the Big 12. That's what I think is going to happen. Now,
and that is your nightly Brad rant.
Possibly they wind up in the Mountain West if the Big 12 passes on them, but I don't think they will. ESPN wants Oregon State and Washington State to be in a power conference.
And
they are pushing.
That's your nightly Bradisms and rants.
Get off your ass. I mean, seriously, you got to get your head out of at least the sand. I'm not going to say get it out of your ass. Well, I just did, but
you just did.
Get your head out of the sand, because that's what happened. That's why your conference fell apart. Let me give you just one more quick little thing on this rant. If y'all's dumbasses had went out and got San Diego State and SMU like you talked about in the very beginning to replace USC and UCLA, 8 other teams wouldn't have left you setting dry, because you would have continued to have a conference. Because SMU wouldn't be in the darn ACC if they would have had a chance to be in the Pac-12. All you had to do was send out a simple invite to SMU and San Diego State. And San Diego State, I get it. They would have had to pay some money to leave the Mountain West. Who the hell cares? Did the Big 12 care? Did the Big 10 give a shit? I mean, the reason why you're in this mess is because you've done nothing and tried to save nothing. If you're going to save it, you got to get off your ass and send some in. Plain and simple. Okay, Jerry. Hopefully that cleared some stuff up.
Yeah, clearing it up.
Hopefully. They could either save the Pac-12, which isn't looking strong right now, or the likely bet is they end up in the Big 12. Small bet chance that they join the Mountain West. I really don't think that's what is going. If that is the option, I think they'll buy out some Mountain West teams and rebuild the Pac-12 with some Mountain West teams instead of joining the Mountain West. That's what I think. All right.
So
we are on the Real Fresh channel.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Are you ready for this weekend?
I'm so ready, man. Football, it started last weekend. We had a great game with Georgia Tech and Florida State. I loved it. It was a great game, and the way first half, second half, it was a great game. Of course, it ended up.
Brad, I called Brad and I was telling him about Nevada, and he was like, "How is SMU losing to Nevada?" Like,
if you watch my show, you know that I at one time liked SMU with Eric Dickerson and the Pony Express a long time ago. I'm not a huge SMU fan, but I did like that a long time ago. Yeah. But I thought SMU was going to be a little better, but man, I'm not sure.
I tell you what I'm ready for. I'm ready for the 49ers to lose some games. Is what I'm ready for.
I'm ready for the Packers and the NFL too, but man, I love college football. I hope you guys have enjoyed our college football preview shows. This is the last one starting on Friday night. This week, we will begin our week 1 game day pick'em show here. I am hoping to have another person on with me and John. Hopefully John Roberts will join us. But that'll be on Friday night, and we will do, I think I have 11 games picked out to do on week 1 here. And so we are on the Real Fresh channel now.
Are you going to tell the news? Are you going to tell the news? Or are you going to wait for later for the cap thing?
The what?
The capper. You said I might have a cap.
Oh no, I'm going to wait on that.
Are you going to wait on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got to talk to him tomorrow, but I'm hoping to add something to the show here. But We're excited to bring you guys season 3 of college football and college sportscast. So, you guys, I hope you enjoyed our previews. Y'all have a great night.
Yeah, have a good one.